right.
Hello, it's Tim O'Neill. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Baseball Coaches Association. As y'all probably know, John Parker has been leading our YouTube Coaches Corner section for, what you had, probably 7 or 8 of these so far?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really enjoying these, and I just wanted to turn the tables on him and have a Coach's Corner on him, get to know John a little bit better. Most of y'all know him, but there's some things we can learn about everybody and find out his ins and outs and what makes him tick. So John, if you would, kind of briefly discuss your coach's career, where you started and how you got to where you are.
All right. Well, I appreciate you doing this, Tim. And definitely not deserving of doing anything like this, but I do appreciate it. I actually started, a lot of people don't know, I actually started my coaching career coaching softball. Of course, a long story, but I ended up at Louisiana College back in the late 90s. I had moved down. I'm originally from here in Monroe, but my wife and I, we moved down there. I was not in school and moved down there for a job. And when she finished her schooling, I decided that better, if I was going to do it and go back and get my degree, I better do it then. So I ended up going to Louisiana College, and I started out as a student assistant in 98. Let's see, spring of 98. Louisiana College was putting on their first, it was the first ever softball season. And so I went to the athletic director and said, I know I want to coach, and, I'd like to help any way possible. So he was like, man, come on, I need all the help I can get. So I had no clue what I was doing. But went out there and, hit ground balls, hit fly balls, and stood around. And but anyway, I ended up graduating in the fall of 99. I didn't have a whole lot left when I went back to school. So when I graduated, he actually approached me and asked me if I wanted to be the head coach. So after 2 seasons of being a student assistant, I took over as the head coach of a college program. And again, I was way over my head, didn't have a clue what I was doing most of the time. But I sought out, I thought I sought out pretty good help. I went to Glenn Moore, who's the head softball coach at Baylor now. He was the head softball coach at LSU at the time, and he and Mark Lumley was his hitting coach. I went and spent 2 or 3 days with those guys and just picked their brains and tried my hardest to learn as much as I could. But so I started out down there and coached down there a couple of years, and went back to school to get my master's degree. I really wanted to be in sports administration. I really like the administration part of it. I know some people like it, some people don't, but for some reason I do. And so I stepped down from being softball and I went into sports information and stayed there another couple of years. And at Louisiana College, I really enjoyed my time there. I'm very grateful to people down there for giving me an opportunity. We moved back home back to Monroe after having our 3rd child. Just needed to be closer to family. I came back up here and coached a year at St. Frederick. Paul Guerrero, he and I grew up together and known him a long, long time. And so I went
strike against you.
Oh yeah, Paul, you got to take Paul, with a grain of salt sometimes. I love me some Paul Guerrero, but he was at St. Frederick and he called me and he said, hey, come over here and coach softball for us. So I went over there and coached a year, and the next year I made the move over here to OCS and started out here as an assistant softball and assistant basketball coach. And, after my I coached 1 year of softball here, and then my oldest son was moving into high school, and I knew I wanted a chance to watch him play, obviously. So I went to administration, and Coach Harper, Michael Harper, who was the head baseball coach, obviously, for a long time here. And he was also the president of the school and the AD. And I went to him and said, I'd love to make the move over to baseball, and so I could watch my son play during his high school year. So he gave me the opportunity and been doing it ever since. So I am in my 17th year now at OCS, and my 16 years, I guess, coaching baseball. And now I'm finishing. Well, I'm starting. Not I shouldn't finish. I'm starting my 8th year as the head baseball coach. So it's been a good ride, man. We've been blessed here at the OCS.
And you're athletic director now, right? For a couple of years.
I am. So 3 years ago, I took over. We do a little sports marketing program. They've had some people do it, just kind of on a part-time basis, and they approached me about it about 3 years ago. And so I took over. I started doing the sports marketing. They got me out of the classroom, which, I was really thankful for that. There's times that I enjoyed teaching, but, all the preparation and all that kind of stuff, you guys who do it on a full-time basis and do coaching and all that stuff, man, I don't know how you do it, but I got out of the classroom. They put me in doing the sports marketing. So I was kind of the chief fundraiser. And then I did that for a year. So 2 years ago, they approached me about being athletic director. And so I'm just finishing my 2nd year as the AD here. So that's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. And, there's obviously some headaches that go along with it, but overall it's been a really, really good 2 years of being AD.
Can you talk about the sports marketing some? I think that might be interesting to some people.
Well, what we do here, obviously we're actually a pre-K through 12th campus. Excuse me. We're obviously located right here on Highway 165. And we have several different areas that we, I sell a lot of signs. We have signs that cover the campus, but instead of each sport having their own thing and going out and doing their own thing, we hit the same vendors over and over and over again. What we decided, several years ago, what they decided to do was have one program that could benefit all programs, have one sports marketing program, and within that program, raise the money, sell the signs, sell the sponsorships, all that kind of stuff. And we keep that money, and I say keep it. We have it in one account. So if there's needs and other, we'll divvy it out, put it like that. Okay. So if a softball team has a need, if they need, turfus, and that's not, they just don't have the budget for it this year. If they need new practice gear, we may, give them a little bit here. Same thing with basketball and tennis and other sports. So we try to keep it, from mainly is from each sport hitting the same vendors or same people over and over again. So we have I've built I wasn't the one who started it. I've just kind of expanded it. So pretty much I raised close to $100,000 the last 3 years. And what that does is cover obviously things I just explained. But it also does things like we sell our own advertisement for football radio. So every football game, I have my halftime sponsors, I have my pre-game sponsors, I have my quarter sponsors, and so on and so forth. And that allows us to, I just pay, exactly what it costs to broadcast a game through a local radio station. But anything over excess of that, we get to keep, and it goes back into our programs. I do all of our baseball games, or we do it through a sports app, through a local radio station. And so it's broadcast, via the internet. And I sell all the sponsorships for that. It's like a radio broadcast, and I sell all the sponsorships for those things. And again, anything that in excess, we get to keep for our programs. So, I have different levels, obviously, all the way down to, just a one sign on this field to, 4 or 5 signs all across campus, digital marketing in our basketball gym. We added some TVs and we do some digital marketing through that. So, there's, we've just expanded that, and it's gone really well. We actually pay all of our part-time coaches through that. Not just in baseball, but part-time coaches through, from football to tennis to track to whoever, as a small school, we rely on those guys a lot. So that relieves the budget, the annual budget from our school. Where we don't have to pay all those guys through our annual budget, and we can pay them through our sports marketing program. And that's been been a blessing, because we can hire a few more coaches when we need them.
Yeah, that's nice there. So let's get back to your coaching career. Who's been some influences on you? I know for sure you're going to talk about Coach Harper, LBCA Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
If you would, you'd talk about some guys you've been around that's influenced you.
Well, when I started, I said I started out at Louisiana College. A guy named he was the athletic director. He was also he started that softball program, Randy Dietz. He's now living in San Antonio. He's a professor at I think Incarnate Word down there. Man, he was just a huge influence, just if nothing else, on how to build relationships with kids. He was an old baseball coach himself, and he was working in the softball realm, and a lot of it transfers over, but there's different things. And one of the biggest things is coaching boys compared to coaching girls. I mean, that's huge. Learning to build those relationships, and you can't coach a girl the same way you coach a guy, and in a lot of aspects of it, and just learning how to build relationships, and but also on the administrative side of it, he was one that really got my interest peaked on how to do that. And just he allowed me to, of course, I was a non-traditional student. I was already married and had a kid, and he allowed me to do some things as a student assistant that, a lot of coaches won't allow that. And he trusted me with things, and delegated. And so he taught me a lot about that kind of stuff. Like you said, Coach Harper, Michael Harper, when I came here, my first year here was 04, 05. Number one, he's a godly man, one of the godliest men I know. He just a man of integrity, man of his word. It's hard to put into words what he has meant to me, but his coaching part of it. Obviously, there's things that we still do, and with me as the head coach, that we did with him for all those years. But he's a guy that when he speaks, you listen. He's got such wisdom on how to, whether it be the game of baseball, I can sit and listen to his stories on different things for hours. But just such wisdom on, from the game of baseball to the, to life, to handling different situations. Having a guy like that, really, he's technically, I guess he's considered still part of my staff. He likes to be out there. We have, I get a chance to be with him. I get a chance to be with him on a daily basis, and he still does all the maintenance on my field, which I'm very blessed to have that in our field.
Your field or his? Your field or his field?
You're right. Michael Harper does all the maintenance on Michael Harper Field. That's it. Okay. That's the way it should be right there.
That's not your field.
No, it is not my field, and I will be the first to tell you that it is not my field. I ask him for permission to do anything on that field. But just so many things that he has wisdom on, how to handle parents, how to handle kids, different situations, that I've had with assistant coaches or whatever the case may be. He's been an influence on me. Tommy Inman, longtime assistant of Coach Harper's, same thing. I've been blessed to have some really, really good, assistant coaches, and I've told you this, and I'll tell this, publicly, but you were a huge influence on me. I was the head coach and you came in as an assistant, but man, just the experience you've had in the coaching the game of baseball, the high school level, especially, and, dealing with kids, and, but just what you were able to share with me and how you handled situations on the field, off the field, those type of things. You were a huge influence on, the few years that you coached with me, and the relationship, the friendship that you and I have built. That's meant the world to me. Kevin Washam is still with me. He and I have been together for 15, 16 years now. We don't always agree on everything. We can sit in our office and, have a heated conversation about why we should do this or why we shouldn't do it or whatever. But I know at the end of the day, he and I love him, and he's one of my best friends, and I think he could say the same about me. But anyway, some of those guys, I mean, man, it's just, it's been a lot. Paul Guerrero, I go and sit and talk to Paul a lot, and you know, just I love to listen to his analytical side of it. That sucker, I mean, he keeps stats on everything, and you know, I like to learn from him. But so those are just some of the guys that, I mean, just huge influence on the way that that I've coached, the way that I handle situations, and you know, those type of things.
I know you've asked most of the coaches this. What are some things this? I want to know exactly like how you've coached something different than what you used to. I know pitching wise, I'm embarrassed of some of the things I used to teach pitching wise. You know, we've learned about conventions and things. So talk about a few of those things specifically, and you know, not just in general.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, over the 17 years, I mean, that I've really been involved. Of course, I mean, just here at OCS, I mean, it's been there's a lot of things. I mean, you know, over the last few years, you know, I guess specifically over the last couple of years is obviously the launch angle and all that kind of stuff's been a huge deal. And I'm not necessarily a huge teacher of the launch angle, those type of things, but I do. I guess I've how do I put this? I've bought into it a little bit more for some kids. You know, I mean, one thing that I mean, even as a head coach, when I started, you know, as a head coach 7 years ago, was, you know, like our BP sessions, you know, we're going to do, you know, hit and runs. We're going to, you know, we're going to bunt. Everybody's going to bunt. Everybody's going to do hit and runs. Everybody's going to do, you know, these certain things. Well, over the last year or so, especially, I've kind of gotten away from some of that in the aspect of why am I teaching my 3, 4, 5 hole hitters? Why are they going through the same BP rounds as my 8 and 9 hole guy? You know, I mean, I do think there's value in teaching some of that stuff. Obviously, I want my guys to be able to handle the bat, those type of things. But I don't necessarily want my 3 hole when a guy's on second base. You know, I don't want him just looking to advance the guy to third by hitting a ground ball to the second baseman. I mean, I want that dude to hit one off the wall in the right center field gap if he gets that pitch. You know, so I mean, and some of those thinking, some of those, you know, I guess more of the approach in the hitting part of it. I've changed especially over the last couple of years, just changing my thinking of, you know, yes, I want them to be a complete hitter, but also, I mean, in high school baseball, if I've got a 3-hole guy, you know, like I said, I mean, I don't necessarily want him always thinking, well, if I get an outside pitch, I'm going to hit a ground ball to second base to move my guy to third. I want him to see if he can hit one off the wall or hit one over the wall. Those type of things. There's some things in pitching. You know, you and I've discussed this at length. You know, some of the things that we used to teach young. I mean, pitching's always been something that's intrigued me, and I really enjoy it. And I was, you know, that's what I did with Coach Harper. I mean, I was the kind of the pitching coach, and some of the things that I taught, you know, I don't teach today. You know, I'm trying to think of something specific off the top of my head, but I just know that some of my ways of thinking and mechanically, those type of things, you know, are different today than what I did even, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
What kind of? I know you're the pitching coach. Kind of explain your pitching system and some of the things you do with pitching.
Well, I guess, you know, kind of like I said, I was trying to think specifically. You know, one of the things that when I really started, you know, kind of Coach Harper kind of got me, turned it over to me. I don't know, probably 2010 or so. One of the things I really wanted to learn more about was the weighted ball stuff, and I spent some time and went 2 or 3 years to Ron Wolfer's camp down in Houston area, and we implemented a lot of that stuff. And at that particular time, I kind of got away from that a little bit, and the reasoning why is because I don't have my guys all year long. I think that those things I think when you have certain kids and they buy into it and we can put them on a program where I know what they're doing all year long, using weighted balls and those type of things, I think it's awesome. And I think there's huge benefits from it. But when you have kids that are football players or basketball players, or they do go off and they want to work with their own private pitching coach or all that kind of stuff, and I don't really know exactly what they're doing or when they're doing it, I worry about that. I worry about a kid overusing his arm, that he's coming to me and he's going through this routine of weighted balls, and then he's leaving here and he's going through it again with somebody that I don't really know and trust. I worry about that kind of stuff. So I've kind of gotten away from doing some of that. I tell you, the one thing that's really worked with us and as far as throwing programs and that kind of thing is the Zach Decont, I can't pronounce his last name.
TCU.
Yeah, the TCU guy. I don't know whatever his last name is. The movement over maxes, those type of things. Our weight room has been huge for us, and working some of those functional movements for shoulder stability, scapula stability, obviously your core, all those type of things. To me, that's over the last couple of years, that has really been a huge part of keeping our guys healthy. And our guys have bought into it. It's not, getting there and moving 300 pounds off a bench press. It's more about how can I function? I mean, I want to get strong, obviously, but how does that strength transfer to the baseball field, and I can have functional movement on the baseball field, whether it be a pitcher or infielder or whoever. But for our pitching side of it, man, that's been huge for us. Those guys have really bought into the shoulder stability part of it and the scapula, those type of things. And it's we've been able to keep our guys pretty healthy over the last couple of years. I mean, you always have there are issues here and there, but for the most part, they've been pretty healthy. Another thing, we started a throwing program with all our guys at the end of November, the last week of November, right after Thanksgiving break. We'll do it during some of our PE periods. If they can't do it during PE periods, then we'll do it in 4-on-1 settings. We want to know exactly what they're throwing, how long they're throwing. We want them to start understanding and feel their arm. We want them to understand the difference. And you've heard me say this many times when you coach with us of, understand the difference of soreness and pain. Try to get those young guys, sometimes you got to throw through a little tendonitis and, some bicep tendonitis and those type of things, and understanding some of that. But we try to give them a structured throwing program that leads us into bullpens into late January. And we know if they're on a 6 to 8 week throwing program and they're, of course, we got to trust them a little bit over the holidays that they're going to get done what they're supposed to get done. But if we know that they're doing this particular throwing program and going this distance and stretching it, beginning to stretch it out and work on pull downs and work on flat grounds as they come back in, work on spins, those type of things. We know when we put them on the mound in late January to start throwing bullpens that their arms should be ready and they should be healthy to go.
What's your thoughts on guys working with, personal coaches, maybe in season or out of season? I know a lot of times we don't have time to maybe give everybody what they should get, but so it could be good, but sometimes you just don't know what they're being taught. So
yeah,
how do you handle that?
Well, here's my deal. I just talked to a parent yesterday about that. To me, if it's making them better, I'm all for it. I don't want to have the ego of they've got to do it my way all the time, and I don't want them to go through, go with anybody else. If they feel like that this makes them better, then by all means, go get some extra cuts. Go get, work on some mechanical issues with your throwing, whatever that case is. We're fortunate that we have, one of our local facilities, DBAT, those guys at DBAT have always communicated with us. I'll call them or text them and say, hey, is this guy, what's he doing tonight? Or, here's what he did today during our session. Will you make sure that this doesn't, that he doesn't overthrow it? And, we'll communicate pretty well with those guys. And I think as long as you communicate effectively with most of those guys, that they'll work with you. I don't think that they don't want to hurt their kid. They don't, this kid's paying them $50 a session or whatever. He doesn't want to hurt him where he can't come back next week. I think as long as you communicate effectively with those guys, I think that they do. Most of the time that they're going to do what is right for the kid. Now, when we start season work, like I was talking about bullpens a minute ago, I want all my guys to throw bullpens with us. And I tell them that, and I'll tell the parents that up front, is that when we start bullpens on, whatever day in January, at the end of January, we're going to start them. We're going to have structured bullpens. They're going to throw this many pitches on this day and then rest for a day or two and then come back and throw another pen, and I tell the parents, and I tell the kid, I want you to throw your pen with us. If you feel like you have to go to this guy for mechanics, if you feel like you're not getting some of the mechanical issues with us because we're just throwing pins right now, I understand that. Go do that with him, but make sure you understand you're throwing pins on, we line out the pin schedule. You're throwing pin on this day, and this day, so I don't want you getting on the pin, coming to the mound with us and saying, hey, I threw a bullpen last night. That's not going to fly. That's not going to set well with us. So we talk to them about that, and we try to communicate, with them. We try to communicate with the parent, and if I know who he's going to, I'll communicate with that guy. And because, again, it's about the kid. It's not about me. It's not about my ego of, what I'm teaching versus what they're teaching. I want to do what the kid needs. And if he, like you said, sometimes we don't have, we're going to have 20 guys throw bullpens. Sometimes we don't have the time to work mechanical things. We're just working locations. When we see things, we're going to try to tweak things. We're going to work some spins, those type of things. Sometimes he does need to go to another guy and talk to him about the mechanics and spend 15, 20 minutes with another guy. So, I'm okay with it as long as we're communicating with those guys and, there's not anything that's really contradicting.
I wanted to ask you this. What are the keys to the success of Ouachita Christian School? Not just baseball, but, just all sports.
Oh, wow. Man, it is I know there's a lot of different opinions of OCS out there. But I tell you what, it's a special place. The 17 years that I've been here now, I'm been in my 17th year. I've had my 3 kids. My oldest son came when I came and he was in 7th grade and he finished out here. My daughter started pre-K 3 when I started here and went through all the way through. And then my youngest is a junior. He's halfway through his junior year. And man, I can't imagine them being anywhere else. For me, I've looked at other places. I've looked at other jobs, possibilities, those type of things. But when it comes back down to it, man, it's a really special place. The number one, it's obviously we're a Christian school. We are fortunate to have an administration that, number one, seeks God in everything they do. Any decision they make, regardless of what you think of them, whatever. I know that those, the Coach Harper, who's the president of our school, Mr. Bobby Stokes, who is the headmaster, and then his wife, Miss Jamie Stokes, is the principal and academic. She pretty much does academic coordinator type deal of our school. And those 3 right there, they spend time in prayer every morning on, decisions that need to be made at this school. The other thing that is very, athletically speaking, that is very beneficial to us, is that they understand what sports and what athletics means. We are a high academic school, and we're going to be a high. We expect a lot out of our kids academically, but they also know that athletics is like the front porch of our school. I mean, it's like, when people look at our school, but a lot of people look at the athletic portion first, so they allow us as a coaching staff to run. I mean, for me personally, as athletic director, they allow me to make a lot of decisions based on what I think is best for the athletic department. Of course, obviously meeting with the coaches and talking with the coaches about that. But we allow our coaches to coach, and we allow them to go out and do what they need to do to make their sport better. And I think we have a lot of godly men and women that work here, that work with our kids on a daily basis. But we're not here for the money. I mean, if people always thought OCS was, money school and all this kind of stuff, the Robertsons went through here and all this kind of stuff. And, you've been here, we pinch and scrape and, every dime that we can get to put into our programs. Salary wise, we make a small portion of what a lot of public schools make. But they treat the employees right. We have good benefit packages. We have, they allow us to be with our kids every day. But the biggest thing is the families that go here. We have some people that don't really trust us, or they give us a hard time just like any other school. But our families trust us for the most part. I mean, they allow us to coach their kids. They allow us to discipline their kids. Do we always make the right decisions? No. Do we always? We're definitely not a perfect school by any means, but we do our best. We try to seek what God wants for our school, number one, and number two, we're going to use that, whatever wisdom He allows to give us. We're going to try to do what's right for our kids and our families that go here.
All right, last question. I know you've always asked everybody on your Coaches Corners what advice you would give to younger coaches. I want to change that a little bit. What advice would you give for all coaches for this coming up season, considering, so many unknowns, really. Yeah. Especially, missing a season last year.
Well, I think last year it taught us not to take anything for granted. It's even when we got shut down that weekend in March, a lot of us thought maybe we'd be back in a few weeks, and or then those couple of weeks turned into a month, and then it turned into 6 weeks, and so on and so forth. So I know one thing it taught us is not to take anything for granted. Coming into this coming season, my advice for other people, other coaches, is to number one, there's really not a whole lot to get angry about. And that's just me personally. We can be upset with the government, we can be upset with whoever, but point blank is, if we're told to shut down, we have to shut down. If we're told to quarantine by your school district or your school board, you got to quarantine. There's not a whole lot of to be upset about. The kids look at you and look at me on how we react to things. I think that's, regardless of what year we're in, if it's, the COVID year, or if it's, 2022 when nothing's going on, in a game situation, whenever the kid they're going to look at you on how you react. If you react violently or volatile, I guess volatile will be not violent. You shouldn't be acting violent about anything. Volatile. If you're, if you fly off at the handle with things, and how are you going to punish that kid when he does the same thing? There's ways that I think we can handle things a little bit better. I really believe, just be where you are at all times. Be where your feet are. Don't always be looking for the next thing. Whatever team you have this spring, make them the best that you can possibly make them. Don't be thinking, well, I'm not going to be, we're not going to be anything this spring. I'm going to, hopefully build for next year. There is a part to that, yes, but man, those kids deserve your very best. and be organized at practice. Go in with a plan, hitting plan, pitching plan, whatever your plan is that day. Go in with a plan, and those guys, let them see you pour your heart out into them. Build those relationships with those kids. I got a text, and I'm not trying to, toot my own horn or anything like that, but I get a text from a kid the other night that quoted a scripture and said, "Hey, coach, this is what you meant to me." And something like that, man, it was huge for me. It was, it hit me exactly where I needed it at a time that maybe I was down about things or whatever. But to have a former player text that to me, man, that was huge. And that talked about relationships to me, of how important they. We won a championship with that kid, but he didn't say anything about the championship he won. He said, "This is what you meant to me." And so I encourage all of you guys to, not to necessarily worry about what's the COVID stuff. And we have to prepare for all that kind of stuff. But man, build those relationships with those kids, man. That's huge. And in 10 years, whether you won a championship or not, they may be talking about it every once in a while, but all those, I've been blessed at OCS to have several rings now, and all those rings are sitting in a box. I don't ever wear them, but those relationships with those kids are things. What's that?
I wear my OCS ring.
I wear one every once in a while. I've got, but for the most part, they're there in that box, and those relationships that those kids, that's what I'll cherish for a whole lot more than those rings. So I just challenge all you guys out there to to handle this, the situation with as much care and respect and dignity as you can. Remember that, these kids are hurting. They're losing grandparents sometimes. I just had a kid came in my office yesterday crying because he lost his grandparent. His grandfather passed away Sunday afternoon from COVID. So regardless of what I think about COVID, people are hurting, man. And so just be respectful and be, just know that, people are hurting right now. And so we need to be that guy that they can come to and talk to about anything.
All right, we'll end it there. Appreciate you doing this, John. You've worked hard on getting everybody else, and like I said, I thought it was time to get to know you a little bit better. And John's a great guy. So if you guys need any help with anything, that's the guy to call. He'll try to take care of you best he can. I appreciate it, John.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your friendship. So.
All right.